All right. What's up, Anna?
Hey,
How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I am here. I am here after spending 8 or 9 days in the heat of West Texas putting epoxy flooring down. So I feel like I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're good. This should be a fun call today. Hopefully we'll have a good audience on today. So we
Oh,
should
yeah.
have a should have. We'll see. Either way,
Yeah,
we'll
for
get a
sure.
good call done.
Do you guys get a lot of humidity down there?
No.
No, it's just a dry desert heat.
Yeah. It was still hot. It was 116. It was 100. Somebody said it was 120 down where we were at in their car the other day. It was 108 in our car yesterday here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah,
Hot,
we
hot,
get
hot.
humidity. And so it feels like 108 or 110, but it's not.
All right, guys, it's another Friday, close to the end of the month. We're doing another Kingdom Impact call today. Hopefully we'll have a big audience on here. We've got exactly who God wants to be on here already. And so that's the nice part about living and believing is that it is exactly as it should be. And so that takes the stress and the anxiousness and all the other stuff out of it when we just believe. Today, we're going to talk about a storyline and a story that you guys are going to be very familiar with. We're going to put a little spin on it. We're going to see about taking a story, and this is what we do a lot on these Kingdom Impact calls. We take a story, we kind of flip it around, and we look at it from career or business perspective instead of just from life perspective or personal perspective or family perspective. And so we're going to take today and we're going to do that. If you guys don't know me, I'm Cory Long. I spent a lot of years, about 17 years of my career in full-time ministry. And then the last 10 years, we have been on a journey of doing ministry without a paycheck. And it has been a fun journey. We've gone and we've done about 4.5 years of RVing where we were able to just go serve at places and just give our time, energy, and resources. And then we're back in the big city of Lubbock, which is not what's behind me. If I put a picture up of Lubbock, you guys would be going, but the mountains, they're actually pretty. so so yeah, so I've got a picture of the mountains up there. But yeah, we're in Lubbock, Texas. We moved back here about a little over a year ago, I guess. It's been a little over a year now, and have been enjoying West Texas and being around family and all that. So that's been a lot of fun. I set out on a journey to take what basically what I was learning and not only do this for myself, but help other people. And so that's why we do these Kingdom Impact calls to give a chance for others to be able to see kind of what I see, to be able to experience some of the things that we get to experience every day, and to see things from a different perspective. Here's the truth: we all have these unconscious beliefs. The unconscious, like up to 80, 90% of everything that you're doing every day is completely unconscious, and you are just going through the motions. Have you ever got in your car and just ended up somewhere? That's unconscious, right? It's stuff that we do systematically. It's stuff that's already there. Have you ever answered something just immediately because you already have the answer? You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to process it. It was just there. You just answered it. There's things that we do that are just unconscious. And so as we talk about some of these things today, I hope that some of this brings out from unconscious to conscious so you guys start to see and start to recognize some of the beliefs maybe that you're holding about business, about money, about how we should create a business that is focused on God and glorifies God. That's really what we're after. We're after a business that's about more than just business. It's about more than just money, or it's about more than just doing and going through the motions. It's about more than just providing maybe a paycheck or getting some employees, giving them something to go do, right? It's about creating kingdom change. It's about creating kingdom impact. That's why we call these calls kingdom impact calls. And so that's what we're doing today. So as we get started, I want you to think about a couple of things. One of the things is what are you putting first? Because I think everybody on here or everybody that sees this has some type of an entrepreneurial desire, drive, or maybe you already own a business. What are you putting first in your business? Because it's really easy for us to get sidetracked in our businesses as we learn a new skill set, or we do something different, or we add something to maybe our toolbox, or maybe we're sidetracked because maybe right now is a real difficult time in your business and you need to make some extra money. So everything is focused on whatever you got to do to make the extra income. What you're focused on in your business and what we focus on is what we're going to get more of. And so as we talk about today, and as we talk about really what Jesus saw and what kind of happened in this story, we're really going to kind of bring it back around, and we're going to talk about what should we be focused on in our business? What are some guardrails that we need to put in place as we go about our daily walk in our businesses? And so as we think about that, we really need to think about money. And here's why. If we don't have our heads straight about money, and if we don't have our beliefs straight about money, we're going to self-sabotage. We just will. We're going to make excuses. We're going to justify. We're going to do all kinds of things that are going to keep us from being as successful as we possibly can be. God created us to be and to do certain specific things. Each one of us has specific gifts, and we have specific abilities that nobody else has, that He's called us to, things that we are gifted to be able to do, and things that really we need to be doing, not just in ministry, but in our business, our career, our family, all of those things. There's ways that we are gifted uniquely, unlike anybody else. And so when we think about money and we think about our beliefs around money, there's all kinds of beliefs that come out. And it's very interesting because a few years ago, I set out on a journey to write a book. The book just came out this week, actually. We'll talk a little bit about it later. But one of the questions that I was asked when we very first started writing the book was, Cory, are you rich? And when he asked me that, I just sat there because I didn't want to say I was rich. And rich compared to what? Because rich and poor are a moving target. When I was doing ministry work, anybody that had more money at the end of the month, to me, was rich, because we were always just barely making it by or living on credit and debt. Now I look at it and I think, what really is rich? And what does that look like? And what really is poor? And what does that look like? Everybody that's on this call is rich compared to most of the world. If you were able to get on this call, you're rich compared to most of this world. If you have a car, air conditioning, a house, running water, you're rich compared to most of the world. Even people that just have cell phones are rich compared to most of the world. It used to always shock me when we were doing children's homework. The girls would come in and they would have no home, no income, no anything, but they would have a cell phone. They always had a cell phone. I don't know how, but they always had a cell phone. And so these are things that as you start to think about your beliefs about money, do you believe that you can be wealthy and righteous? Do you believe that the rich can go to heaven? These are thoughts that as we think about money and we think about Christianity and we think about our belief system, sometimes we have underlying beliefs that we're talking about, these unconscious beliefs that'll pop up and go, maybe it's the opposite of what we think we believe. When I was asked about being rich, it really made me think, why do I hesitate? Am I rich? Am I not? What is rich? How much is rich? How much is too much? How much is too little? I get asked all the time to give. Like, I get hit up every single week to give to something. When people know you own businesses, when people know that you do well, they ask you for money. It's a constant barrage that I get hit up with of, hey, can you give to this? Or, hey, I'm building this, or hey, I'm doing that, or whatever it may be. And there's a lot of things that we give resources to, whether it be money or time or energy or our own business or whatever it may be. And those are things that you're going to have to kind of talk about in your own life is, what do you think is poor and what do you think is rich? Because sometimes we make poor out to be a virtue. That's not true. It's just not. It's not biblical either. And scripture says a whole lot about being poor. It also says that we should give to the poor. So if money is bad and we give to the poor, wouldn't that make them not poor anymore? Which doesn't even make sense. Like, it's all these weird beliefs that we kind of have in our minds about the way things work. Somebody has to have enough money to be able to give to the poor, to give to the poor. In Acts 2, people had to have enough to be able to sell off property or land or whatever it was to be able to give to others in the church so that they'd have everything in common. It's these thought patterns that we have. Jesus had a treasurer, which was Judas, not the best treasurer in the world, but he was a treasurer. We know he was skimming off the top. We know that because it says that. It says that he was skimming off the top. Jesus knew he was skimming off the top. But there apparently was enough treasure to have a treasurer. We always think, I think in my mind, I've always thought Jesus went around, they were flat broke and had nothing and all that, but they had wealthy women with them that helped support the ministry. They had a treasurer that took care of the treasurer, right? What did Jesus and his parents receive when he was born? The Magi showed up. Their whole job was to be kingmakers. And they didn't show up with just a little bit. They opened, it says they literally opened multiple, right? Multiple gifts. There was all kinds of valuables in there. We don't really think about that, but what did the parents do with it? What did Mary and Joseph do? We know that they left and they were able to live 3 years without having a job. Once they left there, they went to Egypt and they lived 3 years without ever having to work. Where did that money go? Jesus was the carpenter of Nazareth. Doesn't say he lived, slept outside or he had his tools and he slept on the street corner. Sometimes we have these pictures and we really need to make sure that we have the pictures correct, because if we don't have the pictures correct, we're going to go down patterns. We're going to go down places that it doesn't line up with scripture. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not all of these other things to make sure that we put guardrails up. There's other problems, issues, other things that can come up that we need to make sure that we protect ourselves when it comes to money. Proverbs tells us to leave an inheritance to our children's children. That means you're going to have some money. You can't do that unless you have some wealth. That's a good thing, apparently, according to Proverbs. So as we look at scripture and as we look at the story that we're going to look at today, it's not only just about money and it's not only just about business. It's about those unconscious beliefs that we're carrying around with us, because we carry these beliefs into all areas of our lives. If we think there's an abundance, we focus on an abundance, that's what we're going to get. If we think there's scarcity and the world's crumbling around us and sky is falling and there's no opportunity and blah, 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 then that's what we're going to get, because that's what we're looking for. It's just like when we buy the red car and all of a sudden everybody's driving the same red car that we're driving. It's what we focus on. It's just the way our brain works. So I want to come back to all this later, but I wanted to start the conversation today that way because I want y'all to start thinking about and recognizing unconscious beliefs you have as we read this story. There's going to be things pop up in your head that you're going to be going, do I believe that or do I not believe that? Is that the truth from scripture, or is that just Cory 101, right? Or whoever, right? Is it my belief or is it scriptural belief? There's a lot of money beliefs that I've held on to for years and years and years that are not scriptural beliefs. It's stuff that I had gotten from family or something that I and it ingested at some point, maybe from school or college or other people that I knew, or maybe a job, or maybe my church career, or maybe something else that I had done, people that I was around. And so those unconscious beliefs are going to drive actions that we have. We need to take control of those. So as we're going through the storyline today, make sure that you guys are being aware of any beliefs or any thoughts that hit your brain. Those thoughts, a lot of times when we make them conscious, it gives us the ability to not only grab the thought, but to do something with it, right? We can now change the thought and move some. We can, it's called neuroplasticity. We can literally change the way our brain is wired. They've scientifically proved it. We know this from scripture. Scripture's told us that we can be transformed by the renewing of our minds, right? It's nothing new, but it's new in science. It's kind of cool, right? That science is proving that what we've known for centuries, right? So here's the deal. We're going to look at Matthew 11 today. We're going to go through the story of the fig tree and the temple. We're going to look at all of that. And then we're going to kind of flip this thing around and we're going to talk about it from a different perspective. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through the scriptures and then we'll bounce back here and we will do some discussing. So let me get into, here we go. All right. So we're in Mark 11. We're going to just look at the NIV today. We're going to keep it really simple. I'm not going to read all of this. We're just going to kind of talk about the story, and then I'm going to read some of it. We'll talk some more about the story, and then we'll come back to some of the principles that we're going to see throughout all of this as we kind of go through everything. So we see Jesus' triumphal entry. We see him and the disciples coming in. This is the high, right? This is the top of the mountain. This is the cheering and the singing and everybody's happy, and the disciples and Jesus, right, are happy, and they're throwing the leaves on the branches and the leaves on the ground. They're spreading them, right, that they've cut in the fields, and they're singing and shouting. And this is the top of the mountain. This is the mountaintop experience right here. Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple courts. I've never really paid any attention to this. This is something that we went through this story. We're involved in the college ministry where we're at now, and we went through the story this Sunday, and it hit me this past Sunday. And some things hit me about this story that I'd never thought of before. That's why I wanted to make sure and bring it to the kingdom call this week. Jesus entered Jerusalem, and then he went to the temple courts. He looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. So he shows up, triumphal entry, all the goodness, all the good stuff. Goes to the temple courts, looks around. It's late. He decides, you know what? Let's go to Bethany. Not uncommon for him to go to Bethany. That's where his friends live. That's where Mary and Martha and Lazarus lived, right? He went to Bethany a lot. This is pretty common. It's about 2 miles away. It took him about 40 minutes to walk there. No big deal. Pretty common thing. They go to Bethany all together. And then the next morning, that's when we find the next story. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree and leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it. All right, I want to deal with this before we go any further. A couple of things about fig trees. This says that he went to find out if it had any fruit. He wouldn't have went and looked at if it had any fruit if he thought it might have fruit. This was not the main season for figs. The main season would have been months later. But if you do any study at all on fig trees can have fruit almost year round. And they get buds from one year that end up producing figs around this same time period that this was happening with Passover. So all of this happened at a time when it wasn't necessarily the season, but there could have been figs on the tree. There were leaves on the tree. Everything told Jesus that this could have figs on it. And so he went, and he was not happy that there weren't any figs on the tree. And so he cursed the tree. Really, the only time we see him do something like this, right, where he just, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." All appearances that it had figs. The disciples heard him say it. No one thought a thing about it. And if you look at the different stories in the different gospels, you're going to see the timeline is a little bit different. Some say it happened immediately the next day in Mark's story here. The next day, they're going to see that the fig tree was completely withered. All right, on reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. As he taught them, he said, is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayers for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this, and they began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him. But the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. When evening came, Jesus' disciples went out of the city. In the morning, as they went along, they saw the same fig tree, right, withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, Rabbi, look, the fig tree you curse has withered. All right, I want to back up. I want to talk about a couple of things. Curse the fig tree, goes into the temple. We know the whole story. He overturns the tables. He makes sure that the benches and all of that, he overturns all that. He moves everybody out. He doesn't allow anybody to carry merchandise through the temple courts. Now, I want to show you guys, as you're thinking about this whole storyline, they were out in this courtyard on the outside, right? There shouldn't have been any buying, selling going on here. Everybody was coming in to do their sacrifice. And so people were bringing money, probably Roman money, that they would need to change into Jewish shekels when they got there. They were bringing money into, they wouldn't have brought their sacrifice with them because most of them had a really long journey to come here. And so they would buy their sacrifice, they would change their money when they got there to be able to offer their sacrifice and their giving, their tithing, and do all of that while they're at the temple. And all of a sudden, these money changers and the people with the lambs for the sacrifices and the doves were starting to be inside the Gentile courtyard, right? They were inside of here. And then if you go even further, you start to get in, you can see here, this is the women's courtyard. And then it moves into it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, right? Until we get into the actual priest courtyard. So you have the Israelites courtyard and the priest courtyard. And then we have the holy place. And so as you look at the temple and the temple courts, and you're looking at everything that's happened, Jesus walks in here. Now, did he see this the day before? He'd already been in the temple. So he already knew what was going on. This wasn't new to him when he showed up this morning. He'd already seen it the day before. We know that he went to the temple courts the day that he arrived. But I want to point out a couple of things that I never really paid attention to until I reread all of this. In verse 17, we have this vision, I think, and maybe it's because of the way the story's been taught. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just the one time when we see Jesus kind of mad. Look what it says in verse 17. And as he taught them. He didn't go through and he wasn't just slinging stuff and doing stuff. Yes, he was overturning tables, and yes, he was overturning benches, and yes, he was whipping them out, right? He was getting them out of the temple courts. But he was teaching them as he goes. He was teaching them as they were going through this process. And we see immediately that the chief priests, the teachers of the law, they were fearful. They immediately got scared. They're immediately fearful, and they were like, we got to kill this dude. But the rest of the people, the rest of the crowd that had showed up to worship and to pray and to sacrifice and to tithe and to do all the things that they came there to do, they were amazed at his teaching. Amazed at his teaching. We're going to come back to all of this. Then we see that next morning they come back. Fig tree's withered. Peter remembered and said, Jesus, Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed is withered. They saw the tree. They knew it had withered. They knew that he had cursed the tree. They knew that he had caused that. They knew that he had caused that. I want to read the next bit of verses, and then we're going to come back and we're going to start unpacking some of this. Have faith in God, Jesus answered. Truly, I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins. I want to point out a couple of things, and then we're going to start unpacking. We're going to go back and kind of walk back through this situation. First of all, how do you think Jesus felt about these money changers and the people that were selling the lambs and the doves and all the other stuff that was happening? Because he tells right here, don't hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive you your sins. He's telling Peter and them, they just saw him walk into the temple, clear the temple courts, do something that probably would have got most people killed, put in jail, something on the spot. And yet none of that happened. The crowd was amazed. The teachers and the chief priests, they're off doing their thing, right? Getting ready to figure out how to kill him. And the disciples over here going, the fig tree withered that you've talked to. And Jesus is telling them, believe in what you've prayed, right? Whatever you ask for, believe that you're going to receive it. It's going to be yours. And don't hold anything against anyone. We know that he didn't hold anything against anyone because what happened when he was on the cross? I mean, he even says it, right? Don't hold this against. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. This is kind of interesting because I've never thought about Jesus had just gone through this what in our minds probably is a very emotional, adrenaline, high energy situation. And yet he's telling his disciples that next morning, hey guys, don't hold anything against anyone. Whatever you pray for, believe, and it will be given to you. He knew what was coming for the disciples. So we're going to talk more about that here in just a second. So let's go back and let's just kind of walk back through this story, because I want to kind of point out a few things that I think will help to bring all of this back around to where we want to kind of land today. Because here's the deal. Jesus enters, he goes to the temple. I can't imagine what he felt like going back to Bethany. He enters, goes to the temple. Everything's like high energy, hallelujah, Hosanna, boom, 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 goes to the temple. He sees what's happening. We know he sees what's happening the day before. It's late, turns around, goes back. They go to Bethany. The next morning they come out and he sees the fig tree. I don't know about you guys, but I am the kind of person that when I know that I need to confront or do something or make something happen, I physically get stressed. One of the reasons why we left the children's home at Carpenter Place years ago was I would get stressed to the point where I was starting to get ulcers and I was starting to have high blood pressure. And there were issues physically that I was having happen. When I took the job at Carpenter Place, I was told by the previous CEO that I was going to have to fire some people. And I was thinking, well, why didn't you fire them? And it's because she didn't want to deal with it. So I ended up having to be the guy that walks in the door. From the day that I walked in the door, I knew that I was going to have to let some people go. I also knew that I was going to have to send some girls home that really needed help, but they weren't a fit for us. They were too high a level of kiddo to be in our type of home. We were in a structured, kind of more of a house environment where we had a school on campus. We weren't a high level unit. We weren't that kind of unit that had all of the bells and whistles that were needed for a high level kiddo. I knew from day one. I don't know about y'all, but it stressed me out thinking about the people that I was going to have to fire. It stressed me. I'd get physically sick the days before I would have to go do that. I don't know what Jesus was thinking the night before. Maybe it didn't stress him out at all. I don't know. But I know if it would have been me and I'd seen what was going on and I knew what needed to happen the next day, I would probably have been stressed the night before. Then I take off with my disciples. And then I see the fig tree and I'm hungry. And he was probably a little hangry at this point, based on the way he treated the fig tree. And he basically cursed the fig tree right there. Could Jesus have just caused the fig tree to produce figs? Of course, he could do whatever he wanted. But that wasn't the point. The fig tree looked as if it had figs. The fig tree looked as if it should be something that's producing fruit, and it was not. I think that's something that, as I think about what's happening in the story, and I think about what he's about to go do, and I think about what the disciples are about to go through, because it's not too many days later that the disciples scatter because Jesus is crucified. It's not many days before they're going to have to go out, and they're going to have to be the ones that go into new environments. They're going to go into new cities. They're going to go preach the gospel. They're going to be telling people about Christ. They're going to be going out and baptizing, and they're going to be doing all of the things. They're the ones that are going to have to go do all these things, and Jesus is prepping them to be able to go do all those things. And he curses the tree, and he wants to make a point, because he goes into the temple and he sees what's wrong, what's happening, that these people are being taken advantage of, and he clears the temple. So I would ask you, do we confront and do we teach when we see that God's house is being abused or distorted or manipulated? Because all of those things are happening in this story. Why didn't somebody else step up and do this before now? Why didn't anybody else clear the temple? Why didn't anybody else make a big deal out of it? Why did Jesus have to come and be the guy to do all of that? What consequences would have happened if it would have been somebody else and not Jesus? Because we see that the people were amazed at Jesus' teaching. We know when he showed up, he always taught with authority. So in our businesses, what does this look like today? Because here was what was happening. The money changers, these guys that were selling sacrifices, the lambs and the doves, they were taking advantage of people. They were taking advantage of people. And not only were they taking advantage of people, but they were doing it in the house of God. They were doing it in the courtyard. And they were doing it blatantly, right in front of the chief priests, right in front of all of the churchy people. And nobody was saying a word. The leadership. How many people had entered that temple courtyard and maybe weren't able to ever worship that day because of all the chaos that was happening? How many people had been taken advantage of? How many people were turned off from God because of what was happening in that courtyard? I think about our businesses today. And I think about, what do we need to make sure that our businesses are about? It doesn't matter if you're selling widgets or you're selling services or you're selling online. It does not matter. It does not matter what you do for a living. We just got finished doing an airplane hangar in my epoxy business. My body was barely able to move when we got to do it. It was hot and it was hard. I'm not used to that kind of work, but we got it done. And it looks great. And I just heard from the contractor that we worked for. He's like, man, we love it. People have been on it all week. It's holding up great. It looks great. When we went in and did the job, we had to work 12 and 13-hour days to get it done on the timeline that they wanted. We didn't try to add anything extra. They asked us as soon as we walked in the door, they said, hey, do you guys mind doing the closets over here? We know that wasn't a part of the contract. We were like, you know what? We got the extra product. It's not going to take that much time. It's extra 400. It's an extra 400 square feet, probably, maybe, out of a 25,000 square foot job. I'm not going to charge them to do that. We want to go above and beyond. We want to give more. We want to over deliver. These guys were taking advantage, and not only were they taking advantage, they were taking advantage in the house of God. They were taking advantage in the courtyards. You know that there were some Jews that walked into that place and Gentiles that walked into that place that because of these people, they weren't able to worship. I would not want to be those people. I would not want to be someone that turns or stops or interrupts or whatever somebody else from being able to worship God. One of the questions that was asked in the class, and I thought it was pretty interesting, that one of the kids, the college kids, made a comment about this whole idea of not making sure that they weren't impeding somebody else's worship, because that's really what these people were doing. These businesses that had set up in there were impeding other people's worship. That is not somewhere I ever want to be. And they were misrepresenting everything that was going on there. The last thing I want to do is turn off a worshiper because of what we're doing in our businesses. I don't ever want to turn somebody away from God because of what I do in my business. If I'm going to say, and we're boldly Christian in everything that we do. You can read anything about any business that I have online. I always am going to claim Christ. And I'm always going to give glory about everything that we have and everything that we do to God. That's what the business is for. It's not mine. I'm just a steward. I don't own the business. I'm just a steward of the business that God's given me. Steward of the resources God's given me. And when you look at the businesses that we have and you look at what we're able to do with them and you look at our ability to either lead somebody to Christ or impede, is not where I want to be. It's not where I want to be. So when we look at these money changers, it's bigger than just, I want to look at this from a business perspective, guys. This was their way to make a living. These money changers, the guys that are selling the doves, the lambs, and all, this is their business. This would be just like you in your digital business or in your whatever business that you own. It's the same thing. What are you doing to either move people towards worship or impede them from worship? We need to ask, what are we not seeing that we're doing or not doing in our businesses? And as we grow a business, what are we growing our business for? I don't know about you guys, but our whole purpose behind the businesses that we have right now is to create more kingdom resources. It's to create more kingdom resources for missions work and church work and nonprofit work. And you guys have seen me pushing Rise Recovery and the home that they just bought for women that are addicted to meth and addicted to alcohol and other addictions that they have to help them get out of that. That's what I want to spend my time and resources on, is helping other people. That's what we built the businesses for. We built the businesses to be able to do ministry without taking a paycheck. That's what we built it all for. If these money changers, my guess would be, I want y'all to think about this. This probably didn't happen overnight in the temple courts. This probably happened slowly. It was creep, right? Some of you that do projects, you know what scope creep is. And all of a sudden, these things kind of get put in, and all of a sudden you're doing this extra, and scope creep happens, right? My guess is this is the same thing that kind of happened here. These guys were outside the courtyard. They were outside, and then all of a sudden they were like, hey guys, like somebody moved in. Maybe a couple of them moved in, and they were like, oh, this is so much easier when we're inside and we can do business and da 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 da. And then before long, other people started making, like, I'm sure it didn't all happen where everybody moved inside the courtyard at once. It probably happened slowly. They were nudged off the line, right? We talk about all the time. You walk down the road, guys. We don't end up on a different path because we just all of a sudden turn. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we make really stupid decisions. I've made some. Sometimes we just turn. Most of the time we're pushed very softly, right? We're just kind of nudged off of the path. That's what I would imagine is probably happened here, is these guys probably were nudged off the path, and this is the way they made their living. So it didn't happen all at once. If we are going to be fruitful, and we're going to look fruitful, we better be fruitful. Which was the problem with the temple and the problem with fig tree. They both looked right from the outside looking in. But when you get into it and you look at it, the fig tree had no figs and the temple had all of this chaos that was going on. It's kind of crazy to think that all of that was happening and it took Jesus to come in to disrupt it and remove it all. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes that's what we've prayed for, that in our lives. I prayed for Jesus to come in and wreck me for everything, like wreck it all. Just make sure that all I'm about is you. Wreck me for everything but you. I want to be about you. My business, my resources, my family, what we're focused on, what I give my time and attention to, all of it. I want it to be about you. And it's not always that way. It's not always perfect. But that's the prayer, right? I want to continue to pray that you would disrupt and remove things out of my life that don't fit, just like he removed things out of the temple. He had to show the disciples. They were getting ready to go do their thing. They were getting to go spread the gospel. They were getting ready to go do hard stuff. And he needed to be able to share with them and show them visibly what that should look like. And there were times when they had to go confront. Sometimes they even had to confront each other because they weren't doing the right thing. Leaders confronting leaders, which needs to happen. We've got to have men and women in our lives that will confront us and say, hey, you've gotten off the beaten path. This fruit tree is not bearing any fruit anymore. All right. So let's talk about a couple things. Sometimes we let selfishness, greed, covetousness, comparison, pride, all creep into our lives. Those things are dangerous things inside of our businesses. What ends up happening is when we start to get those things inside of our business, we start comparing or we start getting pride about what's happening. Then it becomes about me, it becomes about what I want, it becomes about what I need, instead of about what's going to glorify God and build the kingdom. It's interesting because we started this conversation talking about money. And the reason I started the conversation talking about money is because that is an easy way for us to quantify where we put our focus, where we put our time and attention. It's an easy thing for us to look at our checkbook and go, this is what I put into the kingdom this year, or this is what I put into these resources, or whatever it may be for this nonprofit or ministry or my community or my family. We need to take care of our families. Men, that's your very first responsibility. God gave you your family to take care of them. That's what he called us to, right? So when we look at our ministries, we look at our families, we look at our communities, we look at the businesses that we've been given to steward, whether it's a small business or a big business, we have to start putting guardrails up to make sure that we don't go down some beaten path that we're not supposed to. And it's really easy sometimes for us to get nudged off of that path or pushed, or we get creep. And before long, we're in something else. We've got our stand for whatever it is inside the courtyard instead of out where it's supposed to be. And sometimes we need people to be real with us. Sometimes we just need people to confront us. Now, I will tell you guys, my wife has been that for me a lot in my life, where she's confronted me and she said, hey, just so you know, that sounded a little this, or you were acting a little that, and I love it. We've given each other permission to speak truth into each other's lives. I also have coaches in my life that do that. I also have friends in my life that do that. And I've given them permission to be real with me. I want them to be real with me. Are we always going to get it right? No. Are we always going to get our businesses where we over deliver and we do everything right for our client and all that? No, it's like we're not perfect people. All we can do is just continue to strive to be. Continue to point everything back to God, right? We're just stewards. We're just stewards. So we have our responsibility that we need to take responsibility for, whether it's a client, whether it's a relationship, whether it's our business, whether it's money, whether it's whatever, our community, whether it's the way that we're positioning ourselves in our community, whatever it may be. We have to make sure, and there's some safeguards that we need to put in our life. So a few things that I would suggest today. I want to give you guys some practical stuff, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. I hope this has helped because this really was kind of an eye opener for me as I was looking at things the other day in my businesses. We're not, I think sometimes we feel like we're on a journey and all of a sudden we're going to get to the end of the journey and there's going to be fireworks and people are going to be celebrating, kind of like the triumphal entry. Because it doesn't work that way. When we hit 15K in our business, guess what? Nothing changed. There was no fireworks that went off, no confetti blew in my living room. Nothing changed. It was just me and my wife sitting in our house and me going, wow, we hit $15,000 this month. Okay. Nothing changed when we hit 50,000. Okay. There wasn't any confetti bombs going off. Nothing. No triumphal entry. Sometimes we think that those things are going to happen. What I will tell you is along the journey, every time you hit a plateau or you hit the goal, there's another goal. There's another mountaintop. I don't know if y'all have ever done this. It always cracks me up when we go ski. I ski a lot with my daughter. She loves to snowboard. You ride the lift up, and all of a sudden you think that you're seeing the whole mountain from the base. And you get up to that first rise where that thing tops, and you come over that top of that mountain, and there's a whole nother mountain. And sometimes there's a whole nother mountain behind that one. That's the way our journey is. We're going to hit points in our life where we hit these goals that we think are just the confetti bombs are going to go off and the fireworks are going to shoot and everybody's going to be applauding us and all, and nothing's going to happen. It's just a part of the journey because there's another one and another one. Now, there's a few safeguards that we can put into our lives, and these are things that I've tried to intentionally do in my own life. One is community. Who are you around? Make sure that you're around people that are going to be real with you, that are encouraging you, that are lifting you up, that are speaking life into you, that are all focused in the same direction that you're going. Our digital storefront community is probably one of the few communities I've ever found online that's like that. And I've been in a lot of courses. I bought easily 6 figures worth of courses. And it's one of the few courses that's like that, where we can get into the community and we're all focused on the same thing and we can collaborate and we can work together as a community and we can encourage one another and we can pray for one another when things don't go right and we can make sure that we're there for one another and we can hold each other accountable. That community has that. Digital Storefronts has that. We have another program called KBM Mindset that's the same way. It's another program that has a community like that. We need accountability partners. If you guys don't have someone in your life that you can turn to that's an accountability partner, I would highly suggest finding somebody. Sometimes we do some pretty funny things. And I don't mean funny haha. We do things like we want to learn how to make more money, and then we go to the guy that's broke, that can talk the talk, but has no money. That's not a good plan. It's not a good plan. We need to go find people that are going to help us level up, that can be our accountability partners and go, hey, you know how you're doing this one thing right here? That's causing all of this over here not to grow or not to move or not to happen or not to change or whatever it may be. And it could happen in any area of our life. It doesn't just happen to happen in business. We need accountability partners. What if these money changers and these business owners, what if one of the business, let's just say, what if one of the business owners in there said, hey guys, y'all think this is really right, us being in the temple courtyard doing this? I don't know if that would have happened. I don't know what would have happened. Maybe there were other businesses that stayed out. I don't know. It doesn't tell us that. I would hope that I would make the right decision in that specific situation. I can guarantee you I'd want a strong community to back me, and I'd want accountability partners to go, hey, Cory, you need to move your stand. You need to get it out of the temple courts. I would hope that I would have somebody that could be real with me like that. I would say probably the next thing. So we want to make sure we have a community. We make sure that we have some personal accountability partners. I would also say, guys, if you don't have a coach, if you don't have somebody that's personally coaching you, get a coach. Get a coach. Find somebody that's further along the journey than you, hire a coach. Whether it's hiring it like me through digital storefronts or through the mindset course or something like that, whether it's hiring one-on-one coaching, which I know a lot of people do, whether it's hiring group coach, whatever kind of coaching that you can find some kind of coaching that somebody's going to hold you accountable. You need somebody that will not be a yes man in your life or a yes woman in your life, that will tell you the truth. And they will hold you not only accountable as a friend, but like as a coach, somebody that's looking at your life. Here's the truth. You can't smell your own breath. If you have bad breath, guess what? You can't smell it. Somebody needs to tell you. And sometimes that's what coaches do. They go, hey, just so you know, this is something I'm seeing show up in your life, a pattern or a belief system. Is that serving you? Is that what you want in your life? Because if it's not, we need to go a different direction. If any of these business owners had had a coach, maybe they wouldn't have shown up inside the temple courtyard. Maybe they'd done something different. And maybe there were business owners that stayed out. I don't know. We need prayer partners. We need people that can pray for us. My wife is a prayer warrior. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. She's a prayer warrior. It's just the way she's wired. It's what she loves. Like she loves to spend time in God, with God in prayer. She's a prayer warrior. We need prayer warriors in our life. So I hope you have people like that that's in your life that's praying for you consistently. Our spouses, like I mentioned before, if you have a spouse, right? We should be encouraging one another. We should be lifting each other up. We should be spurring each other on. Of course, we want to be studying. If we don't know what's right or wrong, then it's going to be hard for us to actually take action. We need to be praying. We need to be seeking God. If we're not doing those things ourselves, we may end up in the temple courtyard selling our stuff because we don't see what we're doing is wrong. We have to be moving forward. We have to be progressing. We have to be looking at the unconscious beliefs that are happening and seeing what's unconscious and what's conscious. All right. There's more beliefs, there's more mindset in all of this than anything else. And if you look at the storyline, that's really where we're at, is if we're going to build a business with integrity and we're going to build a business that has the right belief systems, we need to give ourselves permission to be able to do the right thing, even if it's uncomfortable. I am not a confrontational person. I have not been. Sometimes I will be if I need to be. I've had to be as a business owner. I've had to be as a leader of the children's home. I've had to be as a leader of kiddos. We've led youth ministries, college ministries. I've had to be in those situations. Sometimes confrontation is not comfortable. Sometimes there's consequences to confrontation. Jesus confronted. Jesus set an example for his disciples to go, hey, look, guys, sometimes you're going to need to clean up the temple courts. Sometimes the fig tree is going to wither. Sometimes you're going to have to make some hard decisions. And in business, that's sometimes what we have to do, but we have to give ourselves permission to push back against the darkness that's in this world. How many people walked right by all of that and never said a word? I hope I wouldn't be that guy that would walk right by all of that every day and not say a word. I hope that I would be connected enough, have my community, have my prayer warriors, study enough, know right from wrong, have coaches, right? Be surrounded by people. I hope that I would be the person to go, hey guys, this isn't right. We need to get these out of the temple courts. We need to move them out of the building. And then we need to make sure we're not taking advantage of people, right? We need to make sure that we're doing it the right way. So if we're wanting to do a business, some of you are starting out in your business. Some of you may already have established business. Some of you may be looking at digital storefronts. Look, guys, here's the bottom line. If you want to own a business, we need to build our businesses to where when people come and do business with us, they know who we are and who we stand for and whose we are. They need to know what we're building our business for. They need to know about the kingdom work that we're doing. They need to know that we're going to go above and beyond, that we're going to give them, we're going to over deliver and we're going to under promise. They need to know that we're going to make sure that we take care of them no matter what. And again, it's not always going to be right, but that's what we've tried to do in every business that we have. Whether it's our agency, whether it's the training companies that we have, the coaching companies that we have, the event that we have, whether it's the epoxy company we have, the other businesses that we have, all the different businesses we have, we've tried to make sure that we do that and we stay that way. The cool part about like digital storefronts is you can go build a business and create a full-time income. Once you have it established, it's really easy to run it part-time. We have guys that are still in full-time ministry doing this part-time, making 6 figures a year easily. It's not a problem for them. And it gives them the freedom to be able to go do kingdom work while still helping small businesses. That's the beauty of what we get to do. We get to go actually talk to people and help them in their business in ways that they do not know how to do their like themselves. I have had people reach out to me and go, "You saved our business." I've had people reach out to me and go, "You've helped our family in ways you didn't even know." I've had people reach out to me and go, "You're the only person that I know that's a Christian and a minister," because they know we've done ministry forever. And they told us their life story and they've asked me to pray for them and situations in their life that are happening. This is a ministry. The business that we run inside of our digital storefront business is a ministry as much as it is anything else. And that's the way we looked at it. We look at it as we just want to go serve people. I want to be able to go serve people, help people. I want to be able to do whatever I can to help them in their business. And as long as I'm helping them in their business and we have an equitable partnership, meaning that I'm bringing them results and they're paying for the results, then it's a beautiful relationship. That's why we have clients that are almost 10 years old now, some that are 10 years old. It's kind of crazy thinking about that, but we've had clients now for almost 10 years that are still with us. We were out at one of them the other day in Dallas. We were out at one of our clients that we've had for years and years and years and years and years. His words to my staff was literally, "I had money set aside for a sales team when I started this business." He owns multiple businesses. He owns some businesses that we helped him with. Then we started helping him with a business that he was founding in Dallas Fort Worth area. He said, "I have money set aside for a sales team." And he said, "Because of what you guys did with the marketing, I never had to actually spend it." He said, "Now that's incredible." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" This guy is an elder at a church that we were attending for a while. Great guy, great family. I love it. We help them grow their business. We help their family. We help the community. We help the church they're involved in. We helped all the employees that now are getting hired because they have actually tripled in size since we started without spending a dime on sales team. None. They've had to have none. They've had more business than they need, and they're actually turning business away, which is why they keep expanding. And they're going to continue to expand. It's crazy. It's crazy cool. And we get to be a part of it. That's what business is to me. Digital storefronts is a way for me to go do ministry in a way that I've never been able to do it before. And especially with Christian business owners like this guy, such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. So if that's what you're looking for, this is something that could definitely give you that ability. Or it may be that you need to go get some mindset work. Like this is something that I've been working on for the last year and a half-ish. I've hired a coach and all she does is help me with mindset. Because we have to be working on these things. We have to be moving towards things. If you guys have not seen it, I just wrote, I don't know if that's going to show up. It's not really showing. There we go. To Love is to Give. If you guys haven't seen it, this is a book that I just wrote about money and God because of the problems that I was having internally with my own thoughts about beliefs about money and how God sees it and how I see it and what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And should I be rich, or is that wrong to be rich? And can I be wealthy and still be righteous? And if there's anything about it in scripture, I want to make sure and pull it out. And that's what's in the book. That's what's in the book. So make sure and read that. I'm going to leave you with one more story and then we're going to end. You guys have hung with me for an hour. The other day we went to Colorado Springs, and we went, me and an intern went, and we were hanging out in Colorado Springs for a week and a half-ish, built another program, doing a bunch of stuff. We're just went fly fishing, had some fun while we were there, got to go to Broadmoor and got to go to some pretty cool places. On our way back, we see these two ladies trying to change a tire on the side of the road in 100-degree heat in the panhandle of Texas. Nobody had stopped. So I pass them, we turn around, we come back, and we circle back around and we go park behind them. And I get out, and they've got the donut on backwards. And so they got the donut on backwards. They're not sure what they're doing. They tell me as soon as I walk up, they're like, look, we don't know if we have it on right. We don't know what we're doing. We've been here for way more time than we should have spent messing with this tire. And immediately I just grab tools and go to work. Didn't ask their names, like they had a couple of kids in the car that they had air conditioning on to try to keep them cool because it was hot. They had all of their junk out of the back of this SUV on the ground, and the donuts on backwards, and we're probably 30 miles from anything out in the middle of Panhandle of Texas. So we jump in, change the tire, put the donut on. There's no way they're going to get the tire back into their little SUV. So I tell them, look, I'm going to follow you into Dalhart, and we'll go find a tire changing place, and we'll make sure you guys are taken care of. They were heading back to Oklahoma, a couple school teachers. They had been up in Colorado doing something. So we throw the tire in the back of the truck. This is by the way, we're behind schedule already. Doesn't matter, right? Whatever. Throw the tire in the back of the truck. We follow them into Dalhart. We get into Dalhart. There happens to be a tire changing place right to the left, but they're usually closed. For whatever reason, the door was open. So I'm honking at them to get them to stop. And so we finally pull over into the tire place. I go in and we talk to them. And I tell the guy, hey, there's a couple ladies that had a blowout, blah, blah, blah. Wanted to see if you could change the tire. They had the donut on, and they need to get back to Oklahoma. We go through this whole thing. Eventually, we find a tire. They get a tire put on. And I tried to pay for it before they could ever even find out. But the lady goes, well, what do I owe? And I said, no, let me take care of this. They were stressed out. They were sweaty from being out on the side of the highway. Like it was a long day. You could tell it had been a long day, right? For me, it was something that I could do on the side of the road and tell them, look, God's blessed me. Let me bless you. And when we got through with all of this, one of the ladies turned to the intern that I had with me, and she said, God's real. God is real. All because of what we did that day, which really was something anybody should have done that day. Stopped and helped a couple of ladies change the tire on the side of the road. I tell you the story because that's what we need to be doing in our businesses. The resources we have are not mine. They're God's. I'm just going to steward them. And I'm going to look for opportunities to steward those resources. So I hope today, as you guys are looking, we need to be fruitful. And it was so cool because we exchanged some information, and they connected with me on Facebook, and they wrote me later, and they were almost crying, and we all hugged each other. And anyway, it was a really cool experience to get to help them when they were just lost in the middle of the panhandle of Texas in 100-degree heat. When we get to go help people like that, especially with our businesses and our resources, money can't buy happiness, but I can guarantee you give enough of it away, and it's pretty cool what can happen. And that's what's been exciting for me, is to see as we've been more and more generous, and we've been able to give more resources and more time and more stuff and more everything away. And we've been able to bless things and bless people and bless organizations and bless ministries and do all the things that God has blessed us with to be able to give. It's really cool to watch. And it makes me really happy. So I hope today, as you guys are looking at your business or looking at the business that you want to form, I hope you start to think about, what do I need to put in place to put guardrails in place to make sure I don't end up in the temple courts? Make sure that I'm producing fruit. Make sure that I'm producing something that's actually making a difference for the kingdom in the world. Because I would take that every day. If somebody could turn and go, man, God's real. God is real. Like that's huge. That's massive. That's what I want to be about every day, is going, hey, it's about him, not me, right? It's about him. And if we can do that every day, day in, day out, day in, day out, guys, the kingdom difference that could be made through all of the trainings and the businesses and everything that I have is huge. And that's what we want to do with digital storefronts. What do we want to do with KBMM? That's what we want to do with the other things that we have, Faith Epoxy, all these different businesses. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to point everything back. So I hope that's where you're at today. I hope you're looking at your business going, I want to produce fruit. I want to produce fruit that's going to make kingdom stuff happen, crazy cool stuff happen. And I want to produce it in a way where I can be involved and I can get a taste of that. I want to get a taste of that, because there are going to be times when it's not easy. And there's going to be times when it's like crazy easy. It's pretty cool to watch, guys, as you get into your business and you get growing more and more and more. So I hope this helped today. I hoped as you looked at all of this and you look at your own life, guys, find a coach, find a community, find some people around you to be real with. Make sure that you're spending time in prayer, you're spending time in study, so that you know what you need to believe, so that you don't get caught up in the temple courts. Make sure you're giving yourself permission to say something when something doesn't look right or something isn't right. And you're giving yourself permission to go out there and be everything God's created you to be. Guys, go seek abundance. Go see how much you can give away. Man, you want to see happiness. Like, there's so many cool things that we can do in this life when we have overflow to be able to go bless other people. And that's what we want to be able to create for everybody around us. I want to take as many people with me as I can. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining me on a Friday. Be blessed today. Go see if you can make somebody else smile today, right? Let's go see how we can bless other people today. And guys, if you have any questions, make sure and hop on one of the Facebook pages that you're on with us. Ask questions. I would love to hear feedback. I appreciate you guys that wrote here in the chat. I know this wasn't a super interactive talk today, but I just felt like it was something that's really important. We need to be building God's kingdom, glorifying businesses. And that's what we need to be about. You guys be blessed. I'll see you guys inside the groups. Y'all have a great one.